For all of our views across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I am Dapo Adegboye. We begin the news at this hour in West Africa, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has approved the nomination of Dr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso to serve as the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, for a term of 5 years at the first instance, pending its confirmation by the Nigerian Senate. This directive is in conformity with Section 8, Subsection 1 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, which vests in the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria the authority to appoint the governor and 4 deputy governors for the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, subject to confirmation by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Tinubu also approved the nomination of 4 new deputy governors of the Central Bank of Nigeria for a term of 5 years at the first instance, pending their confirmation by the Senate. They include Mrs. Emem Usoro, Mr. Mohammed Dattijo, and Mr. Philip Ikeazor and Dr. Bala M. Bello. In the meantime, Nigeria's inflation rate jumped to 25.80% in August 2023, showing 1.72 percentage points higher than the 24.08% recorded in the previous month of July. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, stated this in its recently released Consumer Price Index CPI report for August 2023. Now joining me to discuss the appointment of the new CBN Governor, as well as the rise in inflation, is Gospel Obele, Chief Economist, Streetnomics. Thank you so much for your time, Gospel.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, the President has approved the nomination of Dr. Olayemi Cardoso as the new Central Bank Governor. What do we know about Dr. Cardoso, and what should we expect him to bring to the office?
We're speaking to an individual who's shown to a very large extent great level of expertise within banking, economic planning, and policy formulation and all that. So it's largely expected. Also, being the fact that the current president has worked with him at different levels, and he's also chaired and led large global institutions, facing Africa and all that. He's one that also is proven to have a solid grasp of the African market, the nuances pertaining to the Nigerian economy, and that's like what's expected of his leadership, at the apex institution, and of course, how he's also going to roll out or impute all of these skill sets into the future of monetary policies and financial development in the country. So lots and lots and loads are expected, and fingers crossed upon his hopefully successfully approval by the Senate and all that. We expect to see a new dispensation with monetary policies in Nigeria. Fingers crossed in terms of outlook and expectations as well.
In light of the significant increase in Nigeria's inflation rate for August 2023, what are the primary factors contributing to this surge, and how do they relate to the broader economic landscape?
Well, a lot of factors has led to where we are today in terms of inflation. We've seen how the roller coaster policies that has been put together both by the past administration, by the former Central Bank Governor, heat leading up to the 2023 general elections, and even more recently the policy pronouncements, by the current president. There's been loads and loads of. When you take out subsidy and you put out a notification for inflation on markets in less than 2 weeks, that's really going to lead to some serious cost of living crisis. Knowing fully well that Nigerian economy is very, 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 very susceptible to those pronouncements, and the economy is also very weak and volatile as well. So all of these contexts, looking into consideration the fact that the Russian-Ukraine war is still a big front burner argument globally, climate change and all that are also really, really strong issues that also impact on the imported inflation when you look at it deeply into the Nigerian economy. Food, transportation, energy bills, household utilities, are major touch points and penetration points for the rising cost of living. So outside the fact that inflation has been constantly on the rise. The penetration points have been across, the basic necessities the average Nigerian needs to live on a day-to-day. So technically meaning that inflation has weaved itself deeply into the everyday experience of the average Nigerian, deeply into their pockets. All right. So we're seeing inflation rising as well as cost of living deepening. All right. And if you put those two into consideration, it means that they are reinforcing one another. And as such, reasons why the numbers keep going high and high, and it's also deepening across the touch points / penetration points that I've mentioned.
I mean, talking about inflation, could you provide insights into potential strategies or policies that the new CBN governor might implement to address the issue of rising inflation and also stabilize the economy?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm hoping, first of all and foremost, that the new central bank governor will look beyond just the coffers of the monetary bloc in dealing with inflation. Globally, central bank governors have gone conventional, trying to use interest rates, a monetary policy instrument, to fight inflation, which is a monetary phenomenon, but the nature of this inflation is non-monetary. All right. So the interest rate dynamics will make sense when that inflation is built up by a monetary phenomenon, e.g., increased money supply. But the nature of this inflation we're dealing with is such that you're talking about the geopolitical tensions across the Russia-Ukraine war, China's interest in the African economy, climate change, the fact that there's deep food insecurity in Nigeria, and full subsidy. These are big ticket items. The impact of the elections as well, the roller coaster of this whole Naira redesign argument that didn't go so well, over time. So you're dealing with several blocks of items that have shaped to become structural, some non-monetary related policies that impact on inflation. So I would expect the new central bank governor to have, as much as he wants to think through the lens of monetary, also look for ways to foster partnership with the fiscal authorities, to look for that increased tool mix. And as much as interest rates are key at necessary level, at a sufficient level, it's not enough. So you want to look at interest rates and what other enablers from the fiscal blocks can be used, to bring down not just inflation, but to relax the cost of living pressure on the average Nigerian.
All right, before I let you go, Gospel, I mean, are there any potential risk or concerns or even bottlenecks associated with the leadership, at the CBN that you feel the new governor should be mindful of?
Yes, there are potential bottlenecks, quite honestly, because first and foremost, you're dealing with an economy that's very heavy on leakages right now. There are loads and loads of monetary leakages right now in the economy, and you also have entities and institutions that are not necessarily designed to facilitate the right, complementary efforts with the monetary policy guys. All right. So meaning that the central bank governor has to rethink new ways to manage those excesses, new ways to close those leakages, and new ways to also foster new levels of partnerships with the fiscal authority to drive solutions. Again, another angle, another challenge I see is that the central bank may want to go further into the monetary bit, meaning that they may want to think of more monetary solutions to manage the risk you're faced with. Whilst that is good and fair, you don't want to go too conventional, not to lose touch of, the problem you're trying to solve, which is unconventional in nature. All right. So there are lots of moving parts, lots of items are being juggled right now in the air. The conversation will be, how do you settle in and ensure that we keep the economy moving into more prosperity and facilitating some ease or improved standard of living to a large extent by working with fiscal authorities.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Gospel of Bello.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate time.